Okay, the meat we're using today is a chuck tenderloin roast. This, we want to use meat that has as little marbleization, as little fat as possible. I like to use the eye of the round. That is also very good. This one is the chuck tender roast. It is very, very lean, and I'll show you how we're going to do this. First of all, we look at the thickness. It's a plenty thick roast. If it was a round eye of a round, I would cut it a long way to make it thinner. This one looks like it's going to be okay just the way it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this into thin strips. You want to try not to get to 1/8 of an inch. I'm finding some hidden marbleization in here I don't like. We'll get to the lean and we'll go from there. So cut your entire steak, your entire roast, into thin strips. These are what are going to be hanging after a while on your hooks. So I'm not going to bore you with cutting up all this meat. I will just do this, and when we come back we'll show you some recipe on what to soak or brine or marinate the meat in. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. We have the meat all cut up in nice thin slices. This particular meat has a little more fat in it than I care to have in it, but they don't take it back at the stores, so we're going to use that today. I'm going to stay with my center cut eye of the round from now on. As you can see, we've got a blender. This is a dual purpose blender. Besides making margaritas, it also makes the marinade that we're going to soak the meat in. This is my own personal recipe. You don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but don't send me yours because I'll never use it. This one works very well. We start off with a 1/2 cup of teriyaki sauce. That's what the recipe calls for. Yeah, we got a little more in there. You can't ruin it. Always put wet in first. Anytime you make a recipe requiring liquids and solids and dry stuff, always put the liquids in first. Learn that the hard way. Okay, that was teriyaki sauce. This is soy sauce. We're going to use an equal amount of soy sauce. Maybe about 3/4 of a cup. We're going to just dump that right in there. Okay. Next product we're going to add is Louisiana hot sauce. Do not use Tabasco sauce. It will ruin your beef jerky. Anything other than Tabasco sauce works good. I'm using Louisiana hot sauce, and we just put in about that much. I guess that's maybe a tablespoon or two. You can't make too much. Okay, we got that. We're going to take pepper. The recipe calls for a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, but we're going to use a 1/2 of a teaspoon. The pepper is what makes it hot. It's not the hot sauce. So we got in about a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. We're going to go to onion powder. We're going to use a teaspoon, teaspoon onion powder. Teaspoon of garlic powder. Don't use garlic salt. You don't want to do that. We're going to have enough salt in here. Okay, about a teaspoon of garlic powder. Tablespoon of salt, and this would be non-iodized salt. Kosher salt is what we're going to be using for all of our meat smoking or cooking recipes. This calls for a tablespoon, so we'll put a tablespoon of salt in there. Okay, we got salt, powder, pepper, sauce. We're all done. That's all I got in my recipe. Like I said, don't send me yours, I don't want it. I'm going to blend this up. Finish that off. Okay. Something else they probably didn't tell you on the other smoking shows, never marinate your meat in a metal can. Always use plastic. Metal will give it a terrible taste. It's the difference between bottled beer and canned beer for those of you who drink bottled beer. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the brine and we're going to put it in the plastic container. Set this on the side. We don't just throw all the meat in there at once. You can't do that. You'll ruin your meat. You got to put it in there one at a time. They got to be coated on both sides. Just put it in there, slosh it in there, slosh it around, pull it towards you. One piece at a time. Don't cheat it, because you're not going to get brine on one side. You're going to have bad jerky, and you're going to call me up and say, hey, that recipe sucks. But if you coat it on both sides, the recipe does not suck. It's rather good, as a matter of fact. And I will continue to do that until we get them all in there. Don't want to bore you to death, so we will see you a little later. Okay, so there we are. We have our meat all brined. It's all soaked on both sides, covered up. And if you're wondering why I'm doing this outside and not in the house, if you see the mess along here, my wife is home. Otherwise I'd be doing it in the house. But anyways, we're going to put this in the refrigerator. And tomorrow morning I'm going to do what the butchers call, we're going to overhaul it. And all that means is we're going to flip it around. Because the meat will be soaking up the brine, the top will get a little bit dry. We're going to flip the meat around so it soaks back in there again until tomorrow afternoon. And tomorrow afternoon we're going to put it in the smoker. And I'll see you tomorrow afternoon.